Eek. Good morning, everybody. It's time for Protecting the Nest. Good morning, Carol. Good morning, Amber.
Morning, afternoon.
Morning, John. Yeah, I have a beautiful day here, a beautiful fall day. Hip, hip, hooray. I love it. I hope
The
it
same
goes
thing
till
here in
November.
Cleveland, although it's been, the weather has been very funky. You know, especially the thunder. A few days ago, there was a rolling thunder, and it's a very strange tone to it. You know, very, very weird sound came out of that thundercloud.
Did you get lightning too? Because yeah, we've had some of those, and I could watch the lightning moving from one horizon to the other with the rolling thunder coming, closer and closer, and then going further away. It's pretty. We don't usually get that, so that was pretty interesting.
Well, the lightning I did see with my own eyes, there were 5 or 6 lightning strikes, and they were all in the same azimuth, and they came closer and closer and closer and closer, almost as if they were sequenced by some unknown force.
Interesting.
It's 83 degrees here, and it's bright and sunny.
Oh, you got more summer.
Yeah, we usually have it until probably October 4th or 5th. Then we start to get like low 70s.
Well, the leaves in the trees are still green, so that means we're still in the dog days a little bit, I think. But I know once they start to change, it happens quickly. Things move into the big change, which is sort of exciting. But I love summer. I love that's my favorite time in spring, the new growth and then the exuberant growth. And fall makes me think, oh, it's going to be dark and rainy.
It's going to be a dark winter.
Yeah, if you're in the southeast, I would say fall is great because it's comfortable. So it's like in the summer you're so hot 24/7 that you just walk outside, you're dripping. And spring, you're dealing with lots of pollen and insects, and the weather fluctuates so much. That's when we get a lot of rain. But in the fall, you finally get those mid to low 70s, and the sun is still really bright, so you get to enjoy the day without like sweating profusely. So I think that's why fall, because I've always been in the South, is a lot more palatable. But if I was in the Northwest, I would probably like spring and summer a lot more than fall and winter, for sure.
It gets really soggy. You just feel this dankness coming on. That's a good word for it, because it's either just moldy or foggy or
so that's
pouring rain
chilly
and
and
muddy.
stew weather. You're going to need lots of soups and stews and chilies.
Soup
like
is
that's
great.
that's what's great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not only a heavy jacket, but with the political climate, I think I'm going to get my mud boots.
Yeah, we all need those.
Things here in Ohio are really starting to, we're already preparing for November of 2024 here.
And people are already flinging mud?
Yes. There go the request for mud boots.
Yeah, you need a mud umbrella too.
Yeah, sometimes that mud turns into something else that's brown and they start flinging.
Yep. Well, that's kind of one of the things that I woke up thinking about a little bit, not necessarily elections, but the sort of all the unholy alliances that we're subject to that, we didn't quite realize until a few years ago. I mean, one of them we saw coming, kind of the government and big business coming together. That's been happening for a while. So we've been noticing that, and the more kind of big monopolies that are controlling the government agencies and stuff like that. That's been going on for a while. But I think what I didn't realize, and some people probably did, is that, the intelligence agencies and organized crime have always been kind of hand in glove there. And, you know, we think they're there to help us deal with organized crime, but really that was originally their informants all came from there, and then they rose up in the ranks. And now it seems like, you know, that's kind of where we are. And it's not only just the intelligence agencies, it's big data. It's big data. It's all our information is getting more and more centralized and, you know, being used by people that really don't have our best interests in mind at all anymore. We used to think, you know, that we grew up in, you know, the land of liberty and justice for all. It was what I used to think. We used to say that every day in the morning.
Right.
And now it doesn't feel like that, you know, especially the people that are right now being so censored. You know, that's we've never felt that before. I don't think. Maybe it's been there a little bit, but
I would say immigration has had a lot to play, because what I've noticed, most of the most angry people, so Americans that were born here and raised here, they never thought of overthrow, like destroy the country. They more thought of like lobbying, pushing for what it is they wanted, protesting, standing up against the government. But they never wanted to destroy the country from within. But then when you have migration, you have people who were actually raised around a ton of family members that came from other countries that had loyalties in Europe or had loyalties in the Middle East or in South America, and they viewed it from a different particular way, where they feigned like a loyalty towards this country, but had wanted to pursue more of a philosophy or lifestyle of where that family came from. So
well,
there was
it might also be
like, well,
that their connections are to servitude as servitors.
yeah, that could be it too. But it feels like this lack of loyalty because generations of family were raised in a whole other country, in a whole other culture. They are very more apt to believe the worst, to push for the worst and the worst outcome, because their loyalties were never really part of this country. It was to escape where they were truly loyal from, or it was because of a job opportunity or a change of atmosphere. But people have their loyalties. Like someone who likes the Yankees just because they move to St. Louis and they go to the Cardinals games doesn't mean that when the Yankees come, they don't secretly wish that the Yankees beat the Cardinals. I mean, this is just kind of how people are. And I think because we're known as a melting pot, we're dealing with the reaping of what that is, and it's a lot of people that don't have like a loyalty to want to protect our own country. They're okay with listening to people outside telling us a narrative of how our country should be, rather than forming it on the inside with one another.
I think that's part of it. But I know, like when I went to January 6th, and actually a bunch of years when, you know, when we would get together, I'd always talk to the Uber drivers and you know, the people who obviously have come from another country, and I asked them, you know, why did they come here? What brought them? And so many of them, I mean, almost every single one said, we lost any ability to speak. You know, we couldn't speak out.
Oh yeah, well those are the ones
And that's why we came, because this was the last place to come. And they were feeling now this same thing happening.
Oh yeah, I'm not talking about those people, because those people are trying to change it from within. So they're wanting this.
But they're fresh, you know, they just got here.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about are like the people that you're talking about that you saw on January 6th. They wanted to petition the government. They didn't want to destroy the very fabric of America. They came here because they were escaping tyrannical things. But there's a lot of people who were not, that hatred for their true loyalty was never really there. And so they're not really standing up.
I haven't really
for
met
our
people
country
like that.
I hear it all the time here in Atlanta. We're
Really?
an international city. Yeah, and it's stuff like this. You know, Brazil had its issues, but I'll tell you this, or Argentina, they had their problems, or Puerto Rico has their problems, but I'll tell you this, America needs to do this, and this, and it pretty much reflects where they came from. And I'd be like, why'd you move? Well, my daughter started to go to school here, then she wanted to relocate here, and we relocated here. So there's a lot of that going on where they're willing to throw out the baby with the bathwater concerning the country, because there's just
I guess most of the people I know as like first generation or second generation in the Northwest were Asian immigrants, either Japanese, Chinese, or from somewhere
escaping communism
in the Pacific. Yeah. There's a lot more of that. And then there were these waves of Russians and Ukrainians and people from the Middle East that were escaping, shock and awe and destruction of their entire country.
But some of those people are vengeful, and they didn't come here for good reasons too. So there's a big there's a bitterness. Reasons. There's like a bitterness that I hear a lot, and it's caused regular Americans to have this bitterness. Like, let's just burn it all down. And I think I can't remember who it was that said it, but a man who's willing to burn down his own country and lead the ashes is like not a leader, and so that's not smart to do. Say burn it all down. And
but I'm hearing that idea, the burning down to the ashes, coming from the very upper echelons, sort of what we're learning about when we're really
if we don't allow
digging in and reading about.
What I think their philosophy is, if they don't let us do what we want to do, we'll burn it. Because they're not doing what we want. But I don't think.
No, I think there's an actual plan, like the Phoenix program.
Really, I don't.
The Phoenix program happened in Vietnam, where the people.
Are you sure they were looking for us to be the Phoenix? Because it seems like it would be other monarchical nations.
Well, I think we did that to a whole lot of countries in South America, Africa, Asia. We played that role of burning things down and bombing it to oblivion. And
so maybe that's vengeance, and it's not the upper echelon.
There might be some vengeance there. And I think that's what I'm hearing, John. You're saying, like in Europe, there's a lot of sentiment against the U.S. because of that history.
Now there is. It's something has happened to America. My parents' neighbor, Adam Mueller, he fought in Japan. He fought in the Pacific during the Second War, and he was very badly injured. And after he came back to the U.S., after he came back to Ohio, he built up a community of German Americans who were very dedicated to the idea that by making America the best it could be, they would teach people back home when their second cousins back in Germany and France and Italy how to improve their lot in life. They really believed in America as the founders originally intended it. And so they weren't willing to burn all their ties back to the old country, but they were united. They got together, they had German festivals, lots of good beer. Their identity as German Americans was rooted in their identity as Americans, in the melting pot idea, and that truth, justice, and freedom, liberty for all. If we could do it here, if we could get the gunk, drain the swamp, so to speak, out, we could make things better and export good ideas back to Europe.
That was the original idea. Yeah, that was what was supposed to be happening.
Yeah, but that's what was odd. That's why I noticed the bitterness, because it sticks out like a sore thumb when you never heard it. Like you would hear this inspiration of how America has these values and constitution that they wish their country had, and then it turns to just sarcasm and bitterness from people all over the world that you see in your own country. That want to make the decision as to how your country goes, and you're like, but you're viewing it from a skewed lens. You're not going to be able to fix something by looking at it in that manner, and so you end up noticing the bitterness, and you're like, hey guys, you came here, we all have to assimilate and live together, but we also have to understand that there was a certain type of culture here. Just like if I were to move to the Middle East, I can't really come in. I might try, right? But I can't do much about it. So there's an air of respect. I can't go there with bitterness and like support people who come in or who are sabotaging it and then get a kick out of it, right? Because there's a lot of people who are first generation that I know that make fun of when something bad happens here. Well, looks like, and they think it's funny, and there's not like a concern or a sadness, right? And that's like, it's a bitterness, and that makes me want to, not cheerlead for my country, but really like I need to pay attention to that, because that bitterness can grow. It can either dissipate or grow, and I hope it dissipates so that we can do right and like fix and adjust what needs to be adjusted.
Well, I
without there
think
being extreme
the
measures.
divisions are being fed. And when I really started noticing this, I mean, I think I saw it growing up with Vietnam and all the assassinations and all kinds of stuff. I started seeing, something is really wrong. But before I started noticing George, I did notice this organization called Strategic Communication Laboratory that came out of MI6, I'm pretty sure. And they had a big website, and it had all these war rooms. And what they were selling was how to overthrow countries, how to take, how to manage elections so who's going to win, how to do that. And I started seeing that is exactly what was happening in South America and Africa and all these places that we'd gone in with the UN, to, bring good elections and stuff. That wasn't what we were bringing. It was exactly the opposite. We were bringing in the Phoenix program that we practiced in Vietnam to all these countries so they wouldn't agree. The rainbow, what did they call it? Revolutions or something. This just kept happening over and over again, where there were divisions. Then everybody said, oh boy, we come together. We've got rid of the creepy guys, only that's not who they got rid of. The people that they got rid of maybe were creepy, but the people that came in were even more creepy, and they came in intentionally.
You could argue that we're seeing a color revolution in Fulton County and DeKalb County right now, because it's the same high level strategy. You convince the people that Americans have a duty to go into other countries and protect the innocent, right? And there you under the table, you make sure that some of your friends down there grow in power, they become dictators, and then you shout, hey, there's a dictator. We have a responsibility as Americans to go get rid of that dictator.
We'll bring in another one worse.
And I see the same thing happening in the Atlanta area. It's the so-called white hats that are saying, yeah, we have to kick out those bad guys that we helped put in place.
Well, what Strategic Communication Laboratory, what they said they would do is win the hearts and minds of the people. Only they didn't win all the hearts and minds. They won different tribal hearts and minds that would then pit against each other and create chaos. And so they could come in and take over. That was, what they said they were going to do, and what they did were a little different. And then they came and ran the election in 2020. That was Cambridge Analytica, if you remember that. That came straight out of SCL, Strategic Communication Laboratories. They had a version in London, but then they brought it over here, and they took all the Facebook stuff. They got all the psychological profiles of everybody, and then they did all the targeting that we've been watching happen. Everybody has their very own personal feeds, which know how to poke their buttons. That's the whole intent of it, is how do we poke people's buttons so we can control them. And
we should just fake out what our buttons are.
You've done a
will do
great
that.
job at that. I
I
really admire you. You've
what I
got
do
all these
is like
different profiles.
what I'll do is like act offended to something
Mhm.
that seems like what, and then say something really just broad about a specific subject, and I'll just be all over the place. And the algorithm that I get put into is hilarious. It's just random. And then I'll tweak it again. I'll spend one day. I just pretend, okay, just pretend you have multiple personalities in one day. Your name is Michelle. The next day your name is Steve. The next day your name is Todd. And you still live with your mom and you're 62. Like, you just think of these different ways that those people would behave, and you get to see more on social media than most people, because they're essentially feeding you what the computer's feeding you, what it thinks you want to hear. And so you really find all kinds of things that you're like, well, aha, so this is what you're doing. To all the Steves out there that are 62 living with their moms, now I see why they're acting this way. Now let me be a single
Mhm.
mom who has 3 different kids, right? And ooh, what are they seeing? Oh, now I see how they're doing that. And when you become these different tribal identities and different people, you get fed. And now you know why they think what they think. Now you can communicate with them and approach them by saying, I totally understand why you would think blah, 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 blah. I get where you're coming from with blah, 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 blah. However, I want you to consider blah, 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 because you've now approached them with what you know, what you understand, and it's exactly what they see every day. So they look at you as, a friend who understands their plight, and they're willing to listen to your however dot dot dot.
Mhm.
That's a
Well,
great strategy.
it
I
is.
love
It's a
that.
brilliant strategy. I think, yeah, we all need to look at all those other algorithms, because I used to do that more, but I've kind of gotten out of the habit for whatever reason. And now I'm so shocked again at when I hear my friends say stuff. It's like, what? What are you talking about? Because, they just are hearing such different things. Well, I
A
think.
lot of them are hearing silly things, and then I'm like,
Mhm,
how many things are we hearing that's silly, that takes us down a journey that we think,
mhm,
oh my gosh, this is crazy. But then if someone else sees it, they haven't gone down that yellow brick road, right? So to them, they're like, that's insane. What? And I think that, that's when I hear people say really crazy stuff, I'm like, oh, good Lord, what led them there? Because I'm sure a bit of truth led them there. And then a little story of BS was
mhm.
filtered in. And I think we're all susceptible to that because of our, our,
Or heartstrings.
yeah, yeah. And so I
Yeah.
try to fight against that a lot. It's
That's why
hard
it's
though.
winning the minds and hearts of the people is what they try to do by doing that, by pulling on the heartstrings, tugging on them, and getting them to move into the slaughter pen, I guess.
Well, we need to make sure that our heart is not revealed. The inner workings of our heart is not revealed to a computer, and be
Mhm.
more so stoic, kind, loving, but not vulnerable.
Yeah.
To being put through deceit. I think we should all strategically start looking at it from that perspective.
Because once you see it, then the conclusion can be the no trust initiative, which is, oh, well, I can't trust anybody then because it's all
Right.
manipulated. But and that's kind of the first level of agreement, I guess. Remember Peter's ladder of agreement. That's what they want us to, that's what they want us to go, is to have no trust, so we're not invested in anything and we just let it all fall apart. But we want to keep it together, I think, and promote that doesn't have to be the end result. Even if we can't see the trust, we can still have it within one another, even if we don't agree on everything. We don't have to agree on everything. We can be individuals and still come together to get rid of whatever this is, albatross around
I,
our
I think that
neck.
people are willing and would accept having to adjust their algorithm and actually looking at it from that perspective. But I think they're so unaware
Mm-hmm.
of the games that are played, because I think some people just have such a good heart that they would look at it like, why would somebody waste their time doing that? I mean, why would
Yeah.
somebody think that, they should follow something that I would like and feed me some crazy story? Like, why would they pay people to do that? That can't be true. And I think they have this very much so, uh, like that they can't believe that that's actually something that another human being would take their time doing, or
Well, a
that
lot
any
of that is
asset or money would
programming.
be put towards it. Yeah.
Yes, people are writing the algorithms that do that, and they are compelled to by whatever reasons, the servitor type reasons. And maybe it's because of the siloism. I mean, it's exactly what happened to the Nazis. They were good people put in positions where they were doing their job, but they couldn't see
Yeah, I
the big
agree.
picture at all. They just couldn't see it. So they
The left
thought,
hand didn't know what the right hand was doing.
yeah, they just went ahead with it. And then when Nuremberg happened, they were supposed to have been paying attention. They got in trouble for that, but not really. They actually didn't get in
Sweet
very much
baby.
trouble. So they all came back here to haunt us, and the whole world. It's not just here they came back. I think they were the people put in power in South America and Africa and a lot of places. They rose to positions of power using the same techniques that worked before.
Well, going back to what Amber said earlier, they use the people with people with a big heart are those most heavily targeted, and they are the ones that actually wind up unwittingly doing most of the corralling in the Twitter space, because let's take the case of child abuse or child trafficking.
Mhm.
They've used the people like Craig Sawyer, Save the Children and things like that, to gather up a head of steam and motivate those people who really really love children and want to protect them, and then they start moving them in a certain direction. And so now with what's his name, Ballard's organization,
Tim.
the
Our is his
our
initials.
right. They've completely used the energy of the people with big hearts to create this divide and conquer mechanism around child trafficking. It's
Yeah,
brilliant.
it's not even just divide and conquer. It's also to demoralize them too. I think the people who did think they were doing something right found out, oh no, this has really got some pieces to it that we didn't understand. So how can we trust anything? That
Right.
comes
And
to
even if Ballard isn't in on it,
Mhm.
the result is the same. People say, "Well, I'm not going to give another dime to the next Save the Children effort. I'm just going to sit tight. I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to lift a finger."
Well, I think it is about pattern recognition and solving puzzles too, as to how we move forward, and our self-organizing intuition of how to keep going and bring the light into the shadows. What's happening here? There we go. Did we lose Amber?
Well, she's back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because my connection it keeps cutting out, so I'll just join
Okay.
anytime it cuts out.
Yeah, so it is easy to get demoralized after you've been on, for people who have very big hearts, who've given a lot of their time and a lot of their resources to fighting child trafficking, to get hit by something like the OUR and find out that a lot of the people involved are actually part of the problem, not part of the solution. And so, like John O'Loughlin was saying the other night, it really requires you to dig deep and not allow yourself to become how do you say, hardened,
Cynical.
cynical, and say,
Yeah.
well, you're not going to fool me again. You know, the
But
next time.
it's happening with the vaccination too. I mean, people that got the shot, and they don't want to imagine that they didn't do it for a good reason, to protect all their friends and everybody, you know, and to do it for a reason that could possibly hurt them or their family is unimaginable. And then once they do realize, uh-oh, this is happening, then it's just total loss of faith, I guess, in humanity, or whatever faith you have in anything in the future. It's just very damaging, like having the rug pulled out from under you. And that's kind of going on everywhere now. And it, you know, it's good because the rug pullers are what we want to see. Who's pulling the rug out? And let's do something about that. This is not how we want to live. So hopefully we won't be so damaged that we can't actually figure out what we need to do. I think people have an amazing capacity to figure out the right next step, you know, if you can be open to it. I just listened to Cliff High the other day, and he had one of his cockamamie ideas. Well, it has a lot behind it, but he said that he's one of his thoughts is that we're the computer chips for a silicone-based kind of life form, but that the silicone-based chip, which is what we use, works with electricity and the exchange of electrons, whereas our bio chip that we are also, you know, this whole way that we can filter information so amazingly, works with light, and the silicone one works with electrons. And so that's why the light is a much more powerful computer. It can do so much more because it has this connection to the source of the light. And so it's just an interesting way to think about it, really. And I think that's what our intuition, our connection to, you know, infinity, God, all those things that we sometimes don't know how to explain, but we know it's there. We feel it, you know, we know it's there. And that is what makes us human.
And that's part of the overall operation, is to convince people by keeping them busy, by demoralizing them, by things like OUR, to convince, to not allow people to meditate, to think about those things, to feel, to listen to classical music, to feel that energy, those different waveforms, or
that, you know, it comes into our heart. You know, or can if you let it, and it gives us direction.
Because if they allow a group, let's say 20 people were to get together, and I'll pick a city at random, New Orleans, and if they were to vibrate together, and they could smash the world in two.
Well, maybe that's why, you know, New Orleans got so destroyed, is because they do that every year. They all get together and they vibrate together on many levels, you know, and I've never been to New Orleans, so I'm real excited about that. But I think that, you know, music and dancing is one of those experiences that it can be transformational.
So we went to New Orleans. I was pregnant with my second, and my first was like 2.5. He was in a stroller. So I didn't drink. Well, I rarely drink anyway, but, and I really couldn't we couldn't go to any of the casinos because we had our little one. But what I noticed that was so much fun is we were going to the main shops, and right where the parades go by. And as we're walking, everyone's going in the opposite direction. And I'm like, what's going on? And people were closing up their shop, locking it. And it's in the middle of the day. And I'm like, what is happening? And then all these trolleys and taxis and trucks, and people were just jumping on the back of them. and people are grabbing beads, they're flinging it up, and they're going, "Oh, Saints, 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 Saints." So we're following them. We end up at the football game. They're all going to a football game, and literally the whole town shut down. They all had on their Saints gear or had it in their pocket or whatever, and they were changing as they're walking, and they're chanting, Saints. And then I felt so bad because this is not what anyone in Atlanta does for their sports. You mess up or you lose a game, they're like, and then nobody goes to see your games anymore. And like so many people are fickle, but even when the Saints are having a horrible year, everyone still closes up shop, man. It was so amazing to see. And I felt so sorry for all of those other teams that don't have that kind of love. I mean, people were dancing, holding hands, people that would normally just get into stupid fights and don't see each other in the same philosophical measure or culture. We're literally chanting and holding each other's arms up and Saints, Saints, Saints. And it was great. It was so fun. It was so much fun to watch.
That's what we need. Team spirit.
Team spirit. Yeah, esprit de corps.
I just went to the football game last night. We lost. But anyway, it was fun to watch, just the high school football. I love watching kids sports. I'm not real big on the professional ones, but kids are great. And there is a lot of that. You feel it.
When I go to a local sporting event, I'm sad to see so many people in the stands with their cell phone.
Yeah.
Put the cell phone down for 1 hour and watch your kid play. Come on.
Or the bad sports that are booing the refs and stuff.
Well, I'm the mom, so this is what's funny. I have my phone, but I have my camera on, and I take video, and then afterwards, like especially with basketball when my boys are playing, because I inevitably they'll say, "Did you?" They'll score like 6 points, and then that at the end they're like, "Oh, we lost," or "Oh, I don't know how I did." And so I video so they can see, okay, I captured a really great moment, a really aggressive moment on the court. And then I delete the hundreds of videos that I took in the meantime, trying to capture them doing it. And so I'm the mom that perpetually is videoing pretty much the whole game in pieces so that then I have a clip of like 30 seconds to show them. And I usually try to keep one good clip and one bad clip. So I'll, be able to say, see, this is why we need to work on double dribbling, or see how you fouled, see what you did, see where your elbow went, just kind of review. But yeah, I have my cell phone, but it's literally videoing. And so I'm one of those moms screaming their name, hooping and hollering and doing that.
I was videoing too. I'd been requested to. So
yeah, it's so much fun.
And it helps you see better too, especially at night in a football game. It's far away and you look in the camera and it's all bright and it's all magnified and I could actually see who's doing what. but yeah, it's looking through a little magnifying glass in a way. It's kind of fun.
We need something like that for young politicians who are just starting out. They need a feedback mechanism where they can be told, here's what you did right, here's what you did wrong, so that they can go and do a better job the next day. Unfortunately, no one's doing that. In fact, the last time I tried to videotape a politician, I got in trouble.
Well, it's also good to be able to see the big picture. You take away the little magnifying glass and then you put it back on, and I think that big picture, little picture, big picture, close in is one of the ways that we're making progress. And that's George is such a master of that.
Oh yeah, he definitely is.
Looking for the strategy behind it and then seeing who's doing what, when, where, why, how, and all those things.
And helping us recognize the patterns.
Oh yeah, that's been so helpful. I think I've made a lot of progress in recognizing patterns, that's for sure. And I think, we do it naturally. It's really fun to watch little kids learn how to recognize patterns and how it just happens. They just start figuring it out, and alphabets and numbers and everything. But we need to keep doing that, keep figuring out the patterns that we don't notice. That's the tricky part. You got to keep looking for those all the time, all the puzzles.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what's exhausting everybody. And you can
Mm-hmm.
actually see the energy in waves. This sounds crazy, but when I wake up, I know, like if I look and I've got a ton of texts and then also a ton of notifications on every social media app. I also have a ton of emails from Substacks and stuff. I'm like, okay, so everyone's got their energy right now. No one's drained. They're rip roaring ready to like talk, communicate, share, express. No matter what their philosophy is, something has them fired up. And then I know, okay, I'm not mentally ready. I need coffee. I need a cold shower. I need to wake up. And now I can process, because the worst is when someone's trying to convey a message to you and you're kind of just not awake and not really taking it in, because there's so much that we miss with this information flooding, that I have to, like, I just know everyone is like moving like one big huge force of energy, and then you can always tell when everyone gets exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
The voices drone on. There's a bit of depression or exhaustion. There's a lot of goofing off, a lot of joking to try to relieve the stress. And so you can always tell when there's a dip, and then when there's like a wave, a tidal wave. And it's really interesting to watch. And so just imagine if you're someone who can spy on all of that, what you're able to do to maneuver and manipulate.
Mm-hmm.
When you
Yeah.
see like the wave is starting, let's stop it. The wave
Mm-hmm.
is waned, let's get it fired
And they
back up.
practice. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's practicing this big data surveillance and the automation of people's reactions, automation both imposed, and the reactivity gets automated too. People just react when they hear a word. Oh, you conspiracy theorist or whatever, name calling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can be manipulated because we're so predictable. And Tara made a
Mhm.
very important comment the other night when she talked about dancing. How many times have you heard a doctor tell you or a loved one, you need to go out dancing more? And
Mhm.
yet dancing is very important. That's part of being human.
Yep. That's a really good point. Or yeah, and music too, playing like John O'Loughlin talking about he's going to perform an opera, after he got his cancer diagnosis. That's so cool. It's so healing, just his beautiful voice and practicing. It's just a wonderful thought
I'll
of
tell
how.
you, but that's, I think, why when you're trying to debilitate, and I looked at it from this perspective too. Let's say you're wanting to lower the population. What you're going to do is make the music, the new music, so horrible and so disconnected, and so very difficult to
Dissident.
dance. Yeah, well, difficult to dance to, difficult to have a
Mhm.
partner with. And then on top of that, you're going to degrade society, cause great division. Like I noticed, because I used to do choreography, and I loved theater, did modeling, like literally was cheerleading, dancing in college, and I lived off of choreography. I loved it. And within 3 years of getting married and settling in, then it became, landscape design, working at plant nurseries, finding out botanical names. And, until I joined the symphony orchestra, I met half of those qualifications to re-energize and actually bring myself back into who I am. And the missing element has always been dancing, because when you go dancing, you're around cigarette smoke, you're around behavior that, as someone who's married, you have to avoid more than you can enjoy. So you can't just go and enjoy without a lot of avoidance, a lot of just not being around people who are apt to throw up on you because they're so stinking drunk, people who bump into you. So, I've even considered making a dance studio, to where I can really get back to it, because I know my optimal health is
Mm-hmm.
because of dance. It's not because of like the treadmill or running or
Mm-hmm.
walking monotonously. It's literally from creative dance. And I'm missing that. And I've been missing that for like 20 years. And I think I would find 100% of myself who I was created to be, not the 50%
Mm-hmm.
that I'm holding on to while trying to struggle by being a good parent, good mom, good wife.
Well, you
Uh,
are in the choir, and that being surrounded by voices singing and being a part of that is a fabulous
it
transformative
is. But it's only
feeling.
part of who I am. And I
Mm-hmm.
need to get back to the movement, because that's when I'm more focused.
Yeah.
I get very unfocused because I have a lot of unspent energy. And so it can be put to things that aren't really necessary, and that keep me from being 100% and focused 100%. So I already know, what I need to kind of work on. I think everyone has like 5 talents, and
Mm-hmm.
you got to know those things and do them as frequently as possible, because then you're your best self, and you can problem solve better than anybody, and you're just helping yourself so much more, because you have an answer instead of thousands of questions, especially to your own sanity. So we should all find those 5 qualities. We all have at least 5 amazing talents, all of us, and we
Yeah.
need to like at least
Yeah.
use 3 of them on a regular basis, but not die without utilizing any of them. That would be a very
Mm-hmm.
sad life.
Well, that's
That's a great comment.
it's a wonderful thought, and I've heard you say that before, and I love it every time you say it. The idea that everyone has 5 things that they excel at, and yeah, it's a nice thing to just remember, and to remind your kids especially of. You have 5 talents and use them. It's great advice. So thank you, Amber.
My oldest says, "Yeah, one of my talents is upsetting you by talking back," and I'm like, "That's not a talent." Like, here. And then he said, and I think what he was really doing is he wanted to hear what I thought his talents were. And a lot of times, what my mom and my dad were both teachers. My mom was early childhood education, my dad was secondary. And one thing they said that this has helped me survive kids, even though 2 little boys is a struggle, but it was always 9 times out of 10 a child is going to ask you a question without asking you that actual question. So you have to understand what they're actually saying. So when he says,
Mhm.
"Well, one of my talents is, talking back, right, Mom?" What he's really saying is, "Hey, Mom, I really don't know what my talents are. I'm a people pleaser, and I want to make sure what I think my talents are that you agree." And so that's when I heard that other question that he didn't ask from what he said. And I said, "Oh, that was cute. But I think you know what your talents are. I might see your talents as something different than you do. We can all sit down and write 5 special things about one another. And we can all say, these are what I think your talents are." And then we each reveal what we know for sure our talents are from the inside of our soul. And we can see, are we reflecting what's inside of us outwardly? And then he
Mhm.
said, "Okay, that would be fun. Let's do that." So we're going to do that, and then break apart, so then I can organize their fall and winter clothes from their spring and summer while they play chess with daddy afterwards. So that's going to be our start with Friday night. But yeah, and I'm glad you brought up like it just talking about talents in dancing, and Tara talking about dancing, which led to this, because it's so
Mhm.
important. Those things are so important. We
Yeah,
got to get back to that.
and you're right. As you get different responsibilities and your life changes, it's hard to keep those kinds of things um, happening. It really is. It's a challenge, but it's worth it.
Yet what I think is so bad is we have leadership that tends to mock so many people by saying, "You need to take time for your children, you need to take time." And yet our whole day is strenuous, like, how are we going to pay this bill, how are we going to do this, how are we going to do that? And we're literally running from one thing to another to try to keep up with what we're told is what we're supposed to do. And then we're mocked for not doing the things that we're left out of. We're not privy to. We have to research, we have to figure out if we're being told the truth or not. And then we're told we have sat on our butts and not done what we're told. when most of the things that we're supposed to do now were always qualified as classified. So how in the heck are we supposed to know what was falling apart when, as they were discussing what they couldn't do and what we couldn't see, most of it was classified. So we wouldn't even know what we were supposed to do to adjust whatever it is we've been told. And so it's just a mocking as they're saying, you're the one who's going to have to save this country. Well, great. Could you tell me where to start? Because you're the one who classified everything and told me I couldn't handle the truth. So could
It's
you
all your
please
fault.
let me in on what the hell I need to do and I will do it? But this mocking me, telling me, oh, yeah, you got to do, people need to get off their butt and do what? Because if I go to city council, well, you know, that's not, no matter what we do, we're still in the same quagmire. So it seems like a bunch of people who, if they were cats, they'd be playing with their food. They'd be playing with the mouse and torturing it before it dies, right? So I don't like that attitude. It should literally be, your government has lied to you. Those who are in charge that kept the truth from you are now mocking you and telling you you're going to have to fix what's broken and looking at you so that you strain even more to try to figure out what to do and then laugh at you when you think you're doing something good. And then they're like, well, that, you know, you don't know what you're doing. So it's literally a mock fest that we're getting. And I'm letting them know that. Anytime I hear somebody say that, I'm like, wait a minute, then unclassify everything so we know what to go after. Like you want us to support, you want us to know that there's lots of terrorists. Well, unclassify it so we can see. You want us to know there's lots of treason. Well, unclassify it so we can see. Then we'll know what to do. But we don't know what to do because it's all hidden. So it's really
I think
wrong.
it's also called crazy making. The term when you can't. There's no way you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, because you don't have the information.
Right. But that's the mocking. And I'm like, wait a minute. First of all, you know, the people saying that are saying, you know, your government has hid stuff from you. Yeah. Yeah. That's why we haven't done anything about it. We don't know what the hell to do. Excuse my language. Like, come on, guys.
Well, you're right. And here's a mocking thing. Do you want to do a video? I do have them. I don't know if you
go ahead.
Okay, let's do the one. I brought one on neuroscience that it's called Neuroscience News. It's a magazine, and it's talking about the narratives of neuroscience today. And there's a little video for just a few minutes, but the article on the link that also has the little video on it is called Just Being Around Your Cell Phone Affects Your Thinking. And it's talking about all this neuroscience research done. I think it was done in Oregon, actually. And it says the conclusion is that you're actually a better person if you're around your cell phone, if your cell phone is really handy. So this...
I beg to differ.
Yeah, me too. But go ahead and play the little video there on the side, because that was kind of interesting. Yeah, it was right up at the big top. Go back up to the top, and there's a little video. Not that one. Other side, other way, top. Yeah. Is it gone now?
I'll have to reload. I'll reload it.
Okay. I'll read a little quote from the article while you're reloading. It said, the mind can wander and lose focus when you're not given a thinking aid, which can be less psychologically positive for people, he said. Markowitz is the guy who did the research. He said, this study also fits in the framework of trying to understand if technology or media in general are mirrors or modifiers of human behavior. And you need to play the sound here, because they're talking about the research that is the narrative today of 5 breakthroughs in neuroscience. Maybe that's an ad. I think you have to click the ad off.
That's $500 per eye.
Yeah, click off the ad first.
Okay, I got to turn the sound back on.
But I think our cell phones...
This article is worth...
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer to the question... Well, go ahead and play this first.
September. That's $500 per eye. Visit
What happened? What did I do?
I think you need a little X to turn off the ad thing somehow. Well, anyway, if you can't get it,
Then where's the video?
It went away. So let's forget the video. But I think the answer to the question is, is your cell phone a mirror or is it a modifier? I think if you don't bring critical thinking to it as a tool, then it's a mirror and it's a modifier. And if you bring critical thinking to it, then it becomes a tool. I think that a cell phone can be used as a tool, but it isn't always. So it says
we definitely. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I was going to read something, but you went by too fast.
Oh, sorry. We definitely need the first law of robotics here.
What's the first law of robotics, John?
That the robot must never injure a human.
I like that. I'm not sure.
Because we have hanging around our necks or in our jacket pocket this device, which functionally helps the deep state or can help the deep state interfere with our lives. And so the first law of robotics is definitely applicable.
Mm-hmm. Well, it depends who's making the robots, who's programming the robots, and who's programming the people that are using it, using these tools. Are they, are you learning how to ask questions and get answers, or are you learning to just absorb what it's directing you to do or think or whatever,
I think the best way is to be anything you get, be skeptical, put it in a file, in your head or an actual file. Well, this is telling me this particular thing, and this particular thing matches. So it's like a whiteboard, but in a file system. So, this person or this scientist has been partners with, worked alongside this one, and this one. And so whenever you, like on my phone, my notes, there'll be a section for, and it'll have quotations, truth-telling doctors around it. And then it'll have media doctors, mainstream media doctors. And then those go into separate files. And then I can actually find headers and see if what they're saying, the differences. And I'm able to actually view it from a different lens and be more skeptical with everything I'm reading, rather than just taking it and saying, I like this person, I like that they're pushing back against a mandate, because sometimes that's great, but they were late to the party, they actually promoted it, then they saw where the winds of change were, so then they jumped ship, and they're still misguiding, versus the ones who are actually telling the truth. And we just have to have discernment. And a lot of times we just are like, oh, they're against mandates, they must be telling the truth. You have to critically think, and sometimes you get disappointed because you really like the person, and right. It's disappointing.
Yeah, and they may or may not be coerced into playing the role they're playing. That's the other thing.
Absolutely.
That's where it gets tricky.
Mm-hmm.
That's why hating and wanting revenge is not in particularly a good idea, because you don't know who was compromised, and not even, they didn't do anything, it was just fabricated, and then they're scared into silence, versus who is really a bad person and they have dirt on everybody and everybody has dirt on them and they're all playing a game. Those are two different ways to handle. Like, you don't lump them all in the same group of people. And I think it's hard for people to understand that just because your neighbor screamed wear a mask doesn't make them the boogeyman. It makes them very afraid of what they were seeing and reading, and we have to have that discernment, so we don't just look at everybody as an actual enemy and cause more division. I mean, it's hard to face, and it's hard to understand that there are going to be people that you're really frustrated with and that you're like, why did you believe this or why? But you have to be super patient and understand the news they saw, what they actually were around, the algorithm they were in, their family members, their work, their job, any family history that was linked to any death that's happened in their past. These things triggered lots of people, and we have to not allow them to cause such mayhem next time, but be patient with them
The
because
other
they
tricky
don't
thing
know.
is the media and all the narratives are called the Trusted News Initiative, and that's where you go to get your facts checked. You go to this organization
sad.
that
So
is
sad.
totally lies to you. So, how can you expect people to understand what's going on because they're being screwed with so badly? And
It's really a sad state of affairs.
it's worse than tragic. But we can maintain our humanity and get through this too. I have faith
I agree.
that's what's going to happen, but it's hard to see it, and it's hard not to get discouraged when the evidence is that there's more censorship and more ways to block the messaging getting
And more
through.
ways to more and more people that pretend to be Osprey-minded individuals that are actually in some way in the pocket of the deep state.
I think what's also hard is there are people that are warriors. What I mean is, like, they are full blown, hey, I'm ready. They hurt this many people. This is egregious, and they go into warrior mode. They were created to be that way. Then there's people that are peacekeepers. Then there's people who are diplomatic. Then there's people who are mockers or cynics. And then there's people who are comedians. All of these roles are super important. And I always try not to impede somebody else's proclivity as to how to solve a problem, because we need, in something like this, if everyone was a peacekeeper, we would actually struggle, because a lot of people would pretend to be peaceful while slaughtering everybody. So you actually need those people who know particular manipulations and treachery to play the hard game and push back in a particular way, in order to instill not a fear, but oh, we can't get away with this kind of reaction from those harming people. And so we just can't get away with saying, kumbaya, give peace a chance, because meanwhile, people are keeling over with heart attacks, strokes, and fast-acting cancers. So you do need those warriors. So some days I wake up a warrior, and some days I wake up a diplomat. Some days I wake up a peacemaker. And I think we should allow that from other people and just stay on our path, because I think we're each guided on our particular path. And if we're doing it righteously and we're actually wholehearted, wanting to do things for people who are being victimized or who are the underdog or who are being lied to, where there's ultimate deceit, then I think we'll be guided in a correct manner. So I always try to stay on my path and not judge the boulders in somebody else's.
You gave me an idea. You talk about warriors. We need to have in Maricopa County, in Wayne County, Franklin County, DeKalb County, we need to have a shred or something like a shred with 25, 30 people. And every day we have to start with this kind of behavior. This is going to win. I'm deadly serious here. We need to do something like this. Best Haku ever.
Is this a soccer team?
Rugby. I don't want to get a YouTube strike, but that's the kind of attitude. Getting together, we have to lock arms and do something like that to help each other win the battle.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I saw there. Like one team had all these
That was
women and
the Old Blacks,
the what?
rugby team doing their coup.
Oh, the rugby team. And who was the white team?
I don't
Was the
remember,
white?
but
Because
it
that
was a
was
national. Go ahead.
they look like women, a lot of them on the white team. So, so
They
I
just had
was
long.
curious about who was against who and what was happening exactly. But those guys were warriors. Yeah, they were amazing. They were Maori warriors. Is that
Right.
Maori rugby? Okay. Well, that's kind of fun because my my grandson's other grandpa was on the New Zealand rugby team early in his life, and so he must know some of those Maori warriors. He's like that. So that gave me a chuckle. They're formidable.
But it's part dance, it's part team building. We are not
Psychops.
going to win this battle. We were talking the other night about Professor Hamamoto. We are not going to win this battle if everyone stays in his cubicle with his little camera and tries to talk to 200 people at a time. We have to come together physically in groups of 15 or 20, and like we do with the charrette. But it doesn't have to be necessarily a charrette type of thing where you have a hotel rental and everything. Just it can be 2 hours. Just get together physically with other people.
And that's what we've been missing, or a lot of people have been. I think we have been getting together these last few years, but a lot of people really feel like they're only now kind of coming out of this
Yeah, like
pandemic funk.
it was odd. So 3 weeks ago, I went to speak in front of the commissioners about property taxes. Last week, we went to talk about making sure that people who vote on city structures and protests, that they're actually citizens of this, like they live in the city and they're not brought in. And so there was a battle for before you go speak in front of city council or commissioners, that you actually live in Georgia, like you're actually in Fulton County, that you're actually in the city of Atlanta. And people were flipping out, and we're like, why? Are you cheating? Are you getting people who don't even live here to speak as if they do? And so, but what was interesting is a lot of people, it was like their third or fourth time out since COVID. I'm like, holy crap. Like I've been going the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we figured it out early, and some people are just barely figuring it out, or haven't. A lot of people still haven't figured out what happened. They were just a deer in the headlights. And they still are.
Yeah, it's sad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I think a lot of times people, their anger and what you see them react to in social media, and how tyrannical or dictatorial or authoritarian that they seem to be pushing, I think it's really that they're afraid, and they have such great fear that they want to relinquish all thought to someone who's going to save them, because they're debilitated. And I think that's really, people need to understand, hey, what would you do on a battlefield when someone was frozen with fear? Would you stand there and scream at them, or would you just pass by them and ask somebody to help that was, not running to the very fight itself, right? But someone who was hanging back to help all of those who were frozen in fear, the one who kind of gathers and nurtures and resets those that are just frozen in fear, versus the ones who report, hey, this one seems to be frozen in fear, help, 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 help. And then they just keep running towards the battle, because you can't expect for someone frozen in fear and that want authoritarian measures to actually be somebody on the battlefield. That's debilitating for anybody who's pushing back against tyrannical, authoritarian takeover. And you just can't get caught up in the frozen, standstill bodies that seem to go, what are you doing? No, turn around. This is what we need. Don't take it so personally. They're afraid. And we just need an army of people to escort them into a place where they can gather their thoughts and get over their fear, because they're not going to be able to be helpful until they're unafraid. And we're missing that. We think more information is going to help. No, it's going to make them more frozen in fear, and they're going to dig their heels in more. They don't need more information. They need to be able to be taken out of their frozen state, and they need to be strengthened and not be full of fear.
Well, I think that, that the people that have designed this have studied really clearly how multiple shocks can separate people from their ability to really move forward. It puts you in that just shock state where you can't think straight and you don't have discernment because everything is so confusing. So that's where we are right now. I mean, somehow that never happened to us. And I think, if you look at the people that study how do these things happen, how does tyranny start, there are some people that are immune to it for whatever reason. We don't know, but it draws us together. And that's what has always happened, is there is a resistance. And eventually it becomes so transparent what's happening that people can't avoid seeing it. But until then, they don't want to see it. You have to do something once you see it. You're forced in.
Yeah, and it's fear. They have fear, great fear. Do we have a song that will close us out today, or something inspirational or beautiful to start our weekend, to energize us?
That we could do the jumping up and down one, the pounding in the pile drivers.
I'm looking for it now.
That's okay. A good one. It's just the first minute, because then he starts singing and you'll probably get a strike. I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah, Norman, get out your mixer board. We need something like this video here.
Yeah, I love the rhythms too.
Is Norman scheduled to come to the charrette?
He talked about it, but I think he canceled out.
We would be coming, but both boys are in school, and they've got their fall testing coming up and just all kinds of stuff. So I'm sad to miss.
Oh, I'm not finding it.
Neither am I. In the meantime, I'm going to put up this other link that you sent, just so people can get a quick look at it.
Oh, okay. It's
teaspoons a day.
Yeah, this is about garlic and how powerful it is at curing cancer. So that's interesting, and some other simple stuff too. Oh, I found it. Okay, I found it. It's not.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, I can hear that.
It's not playing, that's why.
But I can't put anything in the link, I don't think. Oh, there we go. There you go. You can play this one.
Dr. Mann, your immune system is like the military that protects your body or your homeland against invaders. It prevents invaders such as viruses. Homeland. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. And hit that bell to get all future notifications for my upcoming videos to help you do for you, to help build your immune system and keep you healthy. So when you're chopping or smashing your garlic clove, there's an enzyme reaction that increases its helpful compounds, which is the main active ingredient in garlic. Allicin contains sulfur, which gives garlic its distinctive smell and taste. This is what gives garlic its medicinal properties that will boost the disease-fighting response in boosting the body's immunity to help fight the flu. Garlic will give your T cells a boost. The T cells are lymphocyte immune cells that protect the body from pathogens and cancer cells. They are important for cell-mediated immunity and the activation of immune cells to fight infection. Raw honey contains antioxidants that will help protect your body from cell damage due to free radicals. Free radicals contribute to the aging process and may also contribute to the development of chronic diseases such as cancer and heart disease. Raw honey has shown immune boosting and anti-cancer benefits. It will also help many of your digestive problems, and it has been proven as an effective treatment for H. pylori, which is a common cause of stomach ulcers. So if you have the flu and you have a sore throat or even coughing, just a spoonful of honey can help conquer these problems. So once it's crushed, to get those full medicinal benefits from that garlic, remember, leave it out up to 10 minutes before you eat it. Now, if you do not have those garlic cloves available, you can buy organic chopped up garlic. And that is very beneficial as well and a lot easier to utilize. Taking 1 clove of garlic and chopping it up very well and putting it on a spoon along with a little bit of honey, or taking 1 teaspoon of that chopped garlic, which is about the same as 1 clove, and then eating it with that honey, you're going to maximize those medicinal health benefits of that garlic and honey together, which is going to be a great immunity booster for you. Now, for those who do not eat honey, for whatever health reasons you may have, you might want to use only a little bit. Or if you don't use it, use another substitute that can take away that pungent taste. I have found that when I eat that garlic, just put it in your mouth, swallow it, and chase it with water.
Oh, he's hardcore.
There are many foods you can use chopped garlic on. You can use it on toast, avocado, olives. You can be creative. Deodorizing your garlic breath is easy. Spinach, mint, parsley, eating an apple, a salad, as well as many other foods. So don't worry about that. Look at the health benefits of what you're doing for your body.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what's really good. I'll tell you what's delicious. So you take like a cup of cottage cheese. All right, you're going to cut it in half. Half of the cottage cheese you're going to put in 1 bowl. So half a cup in 1 bowl, half a cup in the other. You're going to take 1 pickle of pickled ginger and pickled okra, and you're going to chop it, and you're going to stir it into one of those bowls of cottage cheese. In the other bowl, and you're going to add the garlic. So it's pickled, like you can do pickles, but especially pickled ginger and pickled okra in the cottage cheese with the raw garlic, and stir. And then in the other half of the cottage cheese, you're going to put honey and stir. You're going to eat the salty first and then end on the sweet. You get your protein from the cottage cheese. It helps coat your stomach when you're taking in the garlic. The pickled fermented foods are good for you, and they make it tasty. And like you're eating, not just cottage cheese and mush, but crunchiness in it. And the honey tastes like a dessert within the cottage cheese. And it's just 1 cup of cottage cheese, but you split it in half and you get a lot of your medicinal things. And then you don't just feel like you're just a big garlic cube yourself walking around.
that's a great idea.
Dancing in the garlic.
And putting honey and garlic together somehow doesn't sound so great to me. So
No,
like
but
the
when you
idea of
split it, it
they're both
actually
great.
works. Yeah, and you're getting your protein as well, and you feel like you had a snack. And it's really, you had medicine and snack all at the same time.
I love it.
Okay, pile drivers away.
All right, here we go with the pile drivers. Okay, it's loading. Gotta get to the commercial. Okay.
Right there.
I love that.
I think you had it a little faster that time, but they
Yeah,
were
can
jumping
someone-
really quick.
Can someone send me the clip? I think I was sent it, but I forgot and I need it again because I can't find it. I love it.
Oh, I got my leaf blowers now, so I guess I'm gonna have to say goodbye.
Okay, perfect timing. Thanks everybody
right.
for tuning in. And even if you're watching the replay later, please send your comments and give us some suggestions for things you'd like to see investigated more.
Have a great weekend.
Take care, everybody. Keep smiling.
I'm waving. You can't see me, but I'm waving. I'm waving really big. I'm waving.
Let's do the wave. Take good care, everyone.